Oh shit. you just wait right there. I won't get back in the truck, okay? Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh, it's gonna be good. Yeah. All right, back in the truck. Get that AC on, it's a little hot outside. All right, man. This guy, Pesto 6024. My goodness, my friend, my persons. Oh boy, I like this kind of stuff, ladies and gentlemen. I love this stuff. He says, I'm 6'5", a little taller than me, 225 pounds up here, man meat. A little bigger than me. Could I fit on this bike? Adjust the seat and pegs, maybe. The dealer is pushing the ZX4RR on me. No, naughty dealer. But I just don't need it because I'm in the city and the 600cc is just, whew, that's too much. It's too much bike, man. Any thoughts? Oh, I got plenty. And why did you pick the 4 over the 6? So, let's get on the road and start talking about it. So you ask, could you fit on this bike? Of course, you can fit on any bike. The question is, though, are you gonna be comfortable? Now that's the thing you gotta figure out. Because as you know, and I'm sure you've done your diligence on research, and of course I had as well, and I'm sure you're just as confused, maybe even worried as I was when researching of whether or not I'm really going to fit on this bike. And of course, you know, it doesn't help that the dealerships really seem, and I don't know why, but they're just not motivated to let you actually take the bike out for a test ride. We'll get to dealerships later. Fitting isn't so much the big deal. It's comfortability. And that was one of my things to why I decided the way I wanted to go. But we're going to break this down just a little bit. So, can you fit? Yes. You absolutely can. Are you going to be comfortable? Well, we have to ask one simple question. Do you have to have an inline 4? Alright, I'm going to go on the assumption that you have to have an inline 4. And if that's the case, the ZX4RR is the most comfortable inline 4 to have ever been produced. Absolutely. So, and then the next in line would be the ZX6, and then after that the ZX10. Essentially the 600 class is and was at the point in time the most comfortable inline 4 class out there. That's my personal opinion, okay? But the ZX4RR beats them by a landslide. It is the most comfortable inline 4 you can get. So hopefully that helps out. And I know that you mentioned in your comment adjusting seats and pegs and stuff, but hey man, we're not looking at the money factor right now. I mean, you're already considering a $10,000 to $12,000 bike. I really don't want you spending more money than what you need to. And here's the thing. If you plan to spend that money to adjust seats and pegs, then why not get a ZX6, right? They're practically about the same price point. You know, as far as a ZX4RR to ZX6 are compared, $1,000 or so more and you get a more powerful bike. And you can adjust the pegs and seats. Now, granted, it would be a much more aggressive change. I firmly believe if you haven't actually sat on and or had the pleasure to ride a ZX4RR, and I'm going to assume that you've ridden a ZX6R, maybe you haven't, but if you were to ride this two side by side, they're leagues different from each other as far as comfortability and fit. So let's talk about the dealership. All right, some people will be like, don't you ever work with a dealer, rassle. Just buy something off of someone's lawn. And that's an option, right? There is no really wrong way to eat a Reese's Pieces peanut butter cup, you know? Maybe subject to debate, but nonetheless, yeah, that's an option, but there's of course a bunch of pros and cons that go with that. I feel like you feel like I do and did, that buying from a dealer is just a little bit more special because you are buying a brand new bike under factory warranty and it's yours. It's nobody else's, it's yours. And that's why I buy new stuff, okay? It's just because I don't want someone's hand-me-down. I don't want to be lied to. I don't want to figure out that you actually had a bunch of shit wrong with your bike and you failed to tell me. It didn't have any oil in it. There's no brake fluid in it. And you forgot to tell me that one of your cylinders is fucked, so I got to rebuild this whole goddamn engine. So yeah, okay, new bikes. I go with them for those reasons alone. Although I will not shy away from pre-owned. But dealerships, right, pushing the ZX6R on you, I think there's some reason for it. There's a lot of reasons for it, right? You got the economy. Okay, when the whole pandemic happened, it all went to fucking shit, right? Everything went to shit. The economy's fucked. Everything's fucked. You hear about inflation here and there. People don't have the buying power that they had. We have all heard this shit, right? We've all heard it. So you can only imagine that the stereotype of dealerships being the way that they are and or were are just exacerbated with this whole fucking economy and stuff, because people really are conscious about what kind of shit they're buying. At least they should be. And the interest rates involved and all this other crazy stuff. So yes, you are going to get pushier dealerships. And it's just an unfortunate fact of buying anything brand new. Until the day where we can order the stuff offline and somebody brings it to us, kind of like Carvana, right? Except for you're not buying used cars, you're buying brand new vehicles. They bring it to you, verify your licensing and insurance information. They let you test ride it around. It's got a GPS, a temporary GPS on it. And then once you drive it around and you come back and you're like, my God, I love this. You would have already had everything worked out. You just basically have to click on their little pad. Like, all right, just sign and click here, sir, and it's yours. Until we get to that day, though, you're gonna have to deal with a dealership. It's just, it is what it is. Man, I could make a whole ass video on just dealerships in general, but nonetheless, you shouldn't feel pushed. And obviously, you haven't made a decision yet financially, so I'm assuming you haven't by the time I send this video response. That you just need to work with whoever you're comfortable with. Maybe it's just as simple as getting a different salesperson or just going to another dealership. Because guess what? A dealership under Kawasaki can grab from any other dealership, can grab whatever inventory, whatever you want. A dealership is always going to be motivated to make the sale no matter what. So if you're not comfortable working with that dealership, don't fucking worry about them. Fuck them. Go find somewhere else. So then we're going to talk about, I think, explore a little bit more into detail about your whole, I do city riding, right? And you firmly believe that the 600, and of course by extension anything above that, is just too much bike. Too much bike. So let's dissect this a little bit. Really, I'd have to have you sitting in front of me, so I'm going to make a lot of assumptions here. I'm going to assume that either all you do is city riding, which is a little boring. Okay, just my personal thing. A little boring. Or you do mostly city stuff, like go back and forth between work and whatnot, and then when you can, you go out on the back roads and so on and so forth. But let's just say, I don't know, 80% of your time is spent in the city. Well, if this is the case and you're mostly city folk, the bike almost doesn't matter to some degree, right? Because the ride distance between a stoplight and a stop sign in city traffic is so short. You're mostly just sitting on the bike. You're not really getting on it to go anywhere anytime soon. So as we've already ascertained, you're 6'5", so you're gonna flat foot any bike at it whatsoever. Now it's more so like a posture thing, because on the ZX4RR, You're going to be upright, and you're going to be sitting there with your hand on the handlebar, kind of like this. I know it's a little weird angle, but, you know, hand on your hip, and you're going to be just fine. On the ZX6, you're going to be a little bit more leaned because of the seat height, and the ZX10, you're going to be a little bit leaned even further than that. So, I would say even then, the ZX4RR is going to win because sitting in city traffic on a bike, I would pick the ZX4RR any day. But if we're also rationalizing that you do get out to those country roads and enjoy those beautiful, sexy curves, then yeah, it's going to be just as important too of your comfortability, and the ZX4RR is going to fit that build too. Again, I have to reiterate, because I know there's going to be people out there like, oh, what about the seat adjustment stuff? I'm looking at it from factory to factory, right? That's the apples to apples. Once we start tossing mods and stuff into thing, it all goes out the window, because yeah, anybody can mod anything to do anything they want. So, and if you feel like the 600 is too much power, then yeah, the ZX4 is of course going to be your answer. And of course, we've already just asked the question, is an inline 4 absolutely what you have to have? And if that answer is yes, then the ZX4 is the only answer. There is no other bike. There's nothing. So yes, the ZX4RR is your answer. It's going to be a little less, not by a lot, but a little less than the ZX6. You'll get the sound note of the sport bike. You are going to be comfortable. You are going to fit on it better. And you will be able to use, I would say, 90+% of that bike in a city setting. Versus, I would say probably 50% or less with a ZX6, and then like 20% with a ZX10. Because I mean, we're being real, right? You know, stop sign to stop sign, how many gears are you going to change? Maybe once, if even, on a ZX6 or a ZX10. Hell, is probably in a 10, you're just going to be in the first gear. You're never going to have to shift the damn thing. You'll never know what those other gears feel like. With a ZX4, though, yeah, you can shift at least a gear, maybe two, depending on how long the strip is and how many green lights you get. So, yeah, definitely a city sport bike. I never had to think about it that way, but yeah, the ZX4 is most certainly a city sport bike. Why did I choose it? Dude, I live in an area that absolutely I can get whatever fucking monstrous vehicle. I could have something with fucking twin turbos, superchargers, and I can absolutely use the shit out of any bike out there. And, you know, it's obviously crossed my mind a couple of times of, do I really want to get into the ZX4 or just get a ZX6 or just fucking go balls to the wall and grab an H2? I have all these options, right? So why did I pick that ZX4? There's a lot to it, and I am a niche rider. I have been riding for many years, I would say. I've been riding for 7 years, maybe 8 at this point. But most of it has been with Harley Davidson. And I've had all sorts of platforms with them, right? I've actually ridden every type of bike and frame under the cruiser category. You can Sportsters, and I have done Softails, touring models, CVOs. I had a Breakout at one point in time. I've explored them all. I've never had a sport bike. So I researched with Yami Noob and all these other bike tubers out there and stuff, and trying to figure out what the fuck do I want to get. Do I just want to buy a Sportster to go with my Softail? Do I want to try this new thing, that new thing? Do I want to get a foreign bike and have to really go out of my way to do anything with them, and etc., etc., etc. Well, after everything, I was going to pull the trigger on a ZX6 because, from what I understood, it's the most streetable sport bike. It's not as aggressive as the leader bikes. It has a lot of low-end torque, so I have usable energy in a city, I wouldn't say a city setting, but like an in-town setting, where there's, of course, some distance between stoplights and I actually can get up and go, and I won't be trying to find that power to get somewhere. And of course, the frame and everything, how you said, I can really tackle the back roads in my local area. So the ZX6 was most certainly on my radar. And I thought it was a great bike to start with, getting into the sport bike field. But lo and behold, after about a month of research, the ZX4 came out. And so that's one of those factors to why I was really drawn to it. It's the first time ever in history that we have gotten for a small displacement inline 4. So that was really cool to me. I was like, hell yeah, that's really neat. And then it came from factory with the new TST screen and a quick shifter up and down and all this stuff and technology that you at the time did not get on a ZX6 and or a ZX10 and all this other stuff unless you paid for those extra options or did an aftermarket. So there was really there was just so much stuff that the ZX4 had going for it technology-wise, and then the fact that I could get on a comfortable platform that sat, from what I understood from other people, like a Ninja 400 or the new 500 that's out and stuff, and be comfortable while I'm out and about riding. I just thought this was the coolest thing ever. So it had uniqueness going for it. It had technology. It was the newest and latest, greatest thing. And I felt like this was absolutely the step into the door to sport bikes for me. And that's why I got one. And, there's some caveats to it. And of course, if you haven't watched that video there, I go over those things. But as we have recently experienced, you have to at least put $800 more into this bike to get it where it is supposed to be. Now granted, you should not do any of those things aside from maybe a slip-on, maybe the air filter, but definitely not an ECU flash until a full year of ownership, because warranties and other stuff that's going to be in there, if a dealership or by extension Kawasaki and they request, has this ECU been flashed or not, and they discover that you have an ECU flash, you can kiss getting any free work goodbye. So I had my ZX4RR for officially a year now. That's why I went forward with the ECU flash, and here we are. And I can tell you, it is a completely different bike from factory. Did I have fun with the factory settings on the bike? Absolutely. It's absolutely fun. No problem there. Am I having more fun with the ECU flash, the slip-on, and the air filter? Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, I am. With all of this investment into this bike, here's a question that you might ask me next. Do I plan to trade it in, sell it, whatever? That's a good question. That's a good question. That was something I had asked everybody else, like, do you plan to keep this bike in your stable? Because I'm not saying that you can outgrow this bike, because I don't believe I've outgrown this bike. I think its applicable use on a road setting, not a track, on a road setting is practically perfect. You get to explore the gears. You get to explore the bike. You get to explore the road on a shorter wheelbase, smaller frame motorcycle that you are not going to get on a ZX6 or a ZX10. However, I do like me some of that power. I do like me some of that speed. But let's be real. Is it worth it though? Is it worth it to trade the bike in and get that speed stuff? And I know I'm kind of going off of your comment at this point in time, but these are kind of some closing thoughts, some ideas for future thoughts that you might have, along with anybody else who decides to watch this shit. I don't know. I'm scared that if I trade in my ZX4RR that I've spent a lot of time with, and I've gotten, I really feel like this is my bike. You know, that's something else that if you go down the road of flashing the ECU and putting a slip-on and the DNA air filter, it might not be a lot, but as you all seen, and again, I'm assuming you watched the videos, I've been in this bike more so than I had with really any other bike I've ever owned. I kind of feel attached to this thing to some degree. And I fear that if I do trade it in to get that extra power, I'm not going to like it. Because maybe I'm not going to be able to shift as much. Maybe I'm not going to be able to lean as much as I thought or power through as much as I can. And who knows what other myriad things. Plus, have the comfortability that I do right now with the ZX4. Am I willing to risk my back, namely my lower back and maybe my wrists and whatever else, just to enjoy a little extra power that I might not even be able to fucking use all the time on the road? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to ever do that. I would be remiss to say that, of course, I would love to have a fucking supercharged bike like a ZH2 or just an H2 or whatever. But let's be fucking real here, people. I'm not an interstate warrior. Like, I don't go on the interstate just to blow fucking, 200 miles an hour down the road. That's fucking stupid, right? It's fucking stupid. It might be fun, but it's also fucking stupid. And as far as all the corners and the back roads that I personally enjoy, I love it. I mean, you've seen the videos, right? It's beautiful. It's a wonderful time. It's an experience like none other. Am I going to have that same kind of experience outside of the ZX4 with a ZX6 or a ZX10? I don't know. Maybe. But at the same time, maybe not. And I think I personally would be very unhappy to have traded my bike in and just discovered that this isn't the same. And I felt that way about a few bikes in my life. I've traded in some bikes and I'm just like, man, I would love to have that bike back. Because I made it mine. I put ape hangers on something like the Breakout that I had. I actually really want another Breakout. Especially when they came out with the new ones with a 117 in it. I'd absolutely love to have another Breakout. Put the ape hangers on there, put a Vance & Hines radial exhaust, and all the other shit that I had on the last Breakout. Get a 300mm fucking tire on the back, this big ass fucking rear tire, and just have fun with it. Like that was a great bike. That was my in-town bike. That was my in-town bike. But the ZX4, I think in closing, is if we're going to be logical, realistic people, it is the best road sport bike. It's the best road-worthy sport bike out there, bar none. Because you can use everything. The only caveat, of course, is the price. I still personally do not believe that this bike is worth $10,000 or more. I really don't. I think Kawasaki was asking a little much, and unfortunately I don't believe that price is ever going to come down as far as a new bike is concerned. I also don't believe as far as the used market is going to be quite friendly either, because like my bike, I have 1 out of 1,000 ever made for 2023. My bike is actually number 182 out of 1,000. So as far as my bike goes, I don't know what I would price it at. I mean, to us 1,000 people who own that bike, we kind of decide how much it's going to be, right? I don't give a fuck what your Kelley Blue Book says. If you want my 2023 ZX4RR, you're going to have to pay, baby. You're going to have to pay, because Kelley Blue Book don't take into the account of a slip-on and a DNA air filter and an ECU flash and stuff. They don't fucking care about that. It just wants a VIN number, and then it's like, oh, here you go. Oh, here you go. With standard equipment, here you go. They don't give a shit about that. And so, I think the ZX4 out of all sport bikes is going to actually retain quite a bit of value. I think it's kind of forced, though. I think it's a little bit of forced value, in my opinion, because most other sport bikes out there, well, they've been around for quite some time. And so you can grab a ZX6 for $6,000, $4,000, you know, whatever, depending on what year it was made and all this other shit. But a ZX4, well, it's only been out for like a year, right, or almost 2 years at this point, and there's only a few of them out there. So yeah, I don't know about the longevity of value and all that. And then I guess I'm kind of ranting at this point, right? To answer your questions, hopefully I answered them. Hopefully I answered your questions. Hopefully I helped you on determining whether or not you should go chase a ZX4 or maybe continue looking at the ZX6. From my personal perception of your reality and mine, the ZX4 is just a machine that is like no other on the road. And as far as carving up the hills or traveling in the city, this bike can do it all. It absolutely can do it all. And it can hang with the best of them. So I would recommend sincerely looking into the ZX4RR. And I look forward to knowing what you and everybody else out there are going to do. People want something that they can actually ride and enjoy on the road. And if I could just take the ZX6 or the ZX4's chassis and throw it on a ZX6 or a ZX10, you better fucking believe I would buy that bike in a heartbeat. You better believe. Dude, I would say, screw the ZX4RR. I want the ZX10RR with its new seating, like it seats just like the ZX4, but it has 170 something horsepower, baby, and it's just ready to rip. You better believe I would buy that bike in a heartbeat. So maybe that will happen. I don't know. We'll just have to look towards the future. But for the present, go look at the ZX4RR. I haven't been disappointed. It's a wonderful bike, and good job on Kawasaki. You all have yourself a rocking day, motorheads.